Hi everyone! Today I wanted to show a quick ambience system I made for a potential top-down game with procedural terrain generation. The idea was to have an adaptive ambience system that could be used on a game like Humankind or Dark Romantic. I work on Unity and Wwise, but the system can be easily adapted for Godot or Unreal, as well as Fmod. Let's dig into it. The general idea here is to scan the tiles in front of the camera using a recast grid. Doing so, we can know which biomes are in front of the camera and how many times of each biome are there. Next, we can play events and drive ATPC to adapt the audio to the camera position. With that, we are getting cool 2D ambient sounds, and to make the soundscape feel a bit more grounded, I'm adding some 3D elements on certain environment elements. In Unity, I send a series of recasts when the camera is moving. To reduce the amount of resend, we look at the distance the camera has traveled since the last resend. The shape of the grid is adapted depending on the camera altitude. The higher we are, the larger the grid is. Then we get biomes presence information and establish an average value for each of them. This value will be used later in Wwise to drive a voice volume RTPC. We also get an average position for all biomes by using recast results. The average position will be used to be able to pan the source depending on their position. And that's it for the paths emitter. Next, I added proximity emitters that play only when the camera is close enough to them. For example, I would like to have a water sound when I'm approaching this fountain. So I'm adding an emitter slot in the fountain, sets the emitter prefab to play, and then sends the spawn probability. And that's it, the sound is now playing. In a top-down game like this one, we can make the camera travel very fast in the world, and instantiating and destroying entities can take a bit of CPU resources, especially when the number of instantiated objects is important. For a fountain it could be fine, but if I want to add birds in all of the trees of my forest, it will become a problem. To keep CPU usage low, I'm using the Unity pooling system. This system allows me to activate and deactivate an existing proximity emitter whenever I need one. And a little bonus, the system keeps the hierarchy clean when instantiating new emitters. The probability trigger parameters allow to add a bit of randomness in the soundscape. Okay, let's see the Wwise side now. In Wwise, all my systems are pretty simple. I'm using random container with crossfade transition to add a bit of diversity in the playing loop. On those random containers, True RTPC modulate the voice volume of each biome. One is plugged on the camera 8, and the other one is using the average value of biome presence. Notice that I'm using a different RTPC for each individual biome. I could share the same RTPC for all the biome, but doing so, it's becoming a bit more difficult to profile their value properly. This method doesn't scale very well, but since we shouldn't have thousands of different biomes, I think that's fine. Anyway, if we need to change it to use a single RTPC for all the biome, we just have to change one line of code and set the right RTPC in Wwise and Unity. I also have a wind path playing in the background. This one depends on the height of the camera. The higher we are in the sky, the louder the wind is. For the wind pad, I'm using a switch container driven by a switch group. I'm using switch group instead of states because switches can be driven by a RTPC, and this method doesn't need additional scripting integrations since height RTPC is already set. This also allows me to change the threshold value directly in Wwise. The switch container also allows me to save a bit of CPU usage, since switches container unloads the unplugging audio when blame containers does not. I'm getting a bit less clean transition, but my wind pad will be very low in the mix and switches sound clean enough to me. From those simple systems result in an easy to use interface in which adding new biome soundscape doesn't require to go into the script editor. From the ambience manager script, we just need to give to the new biome a name, a corresponding play and stop event, and a corresponding ATPC. Then, we need to flag each tile with a corresponding biome type, and that's it. If we want to add proximity emitters, we need to create a new emitter prefab, give him the right Wise event, the right trigger radius, and flag him with the right emitter type. Then, we just need to add an emitter slot to the desired location and give him the right emitter prefab as a reference. Thanks a lot for your attention, and feel free to reach me if you have any question regarding this system. I also wanted to add that even if I'm kind of new at programming, I did not use AI technology to help me during the process. It's important to me to learn new things by trying and making mistakes. So if you're stuck during the process, search for a solution on the internet, post your issues on a forum, ask a friend. You will probably get an answer, and at the same time you will probably help a stranger in the future. It's like a bit more time, but it's 100 times better.